But the point of the parable here is that if it's the allegory and we start from the bridegroom there, then we've got good ground to work from. But it's when we start moving into the allegorical meaning of the patch and the wine that we run into trouble in historic Christian interpretations. But recall, if you go back and read the story very, very carefully, you'll see that Yeshua actually is trying to keep and preserve the older items. The patch is brought into the picture because you want to keep the garment. Otherwise, why would you be patching it? Why don't you just either give it away, throw it away, toss it out, and buy a new one? Something like that. Likewise, with the wine and the wineskins, Yeshua clearly says at the end of Matthew and in Luke's rendering, if you recondition the skins prior to introducing this new wine, you'll be able to preserve not only the new wine, but the wineskin as well. Both will be preserved, is the way it's described in Matthew and in Luke. Likewise, if we carefully go back and look at the Greek words for new and fresh, sometimes rendered new and new, when we're talking about new wine and new wineskins, there are two Greek words that can carry the nuance of new as in qualitatively new and new as in chronologically new. One is new in time, like new on the scene, and the other carries the idea of new as in refreshed or refurbished or something like that, reinvigorated. And so it's better to render one of those words as new and the other word as fresh, not new and new, as in they're both brand new and never before been used. By allowing for that nuance of qualitatively new for the other word, kainos, instead of chronologically new, which is naos, we allow for what David Stern's trying to introduce to the discussion. So let's pick up David Stern again. He says, but if the old religious forms become fresh, right, that different Greek word, which is not naos, but it's kainos, then what happens is that they can accommodate Yeshua without having to be discarded. So again, remember, you have to remember, right? How's that for redundancy? You have to recall that the predominant Christian examples that are given in your commentaries and that you're going to pick up if you listen to a sermon are that Jesus is trying to toss out the old and introduce the new using this analogy or this allegory or this parable. And in so doing, he's demonstrating that Judaism is bankrupt at this point in time. It is irreparable. It can't be repaired. It simply needs to be shelved or mothballed or put on back burner status or, fill in the blank with whatever analogy is you're used to hearing. But by doing so and introducing this new religion called Christianity, Jesus essentially frees us, the people of God, from any obligation to following after the law of Moses. Likewise, he's letting us know that we've had it all wrong from the beginning. We've always been approaching God through our religious efforts, our righteousness, our obedience to law, our sacrifices as a people of God and things like that. But really, he's trying to let us know, no, it's not all about all that. You don't need any of all that. Of that. What you really need is just faith in Messiah, faith in me, faith in God, love for your God, love for your neighbor, and grace upon grace will be poured out upon you. Live your life by the power of the Holy Spirit. Don't live your life by your own self-righteous obedience and things like that. So what we're beginning to see, though, is in that description, if Judaism is truly the bankrupt religion, right, that Christianity describes it as today, then it would be true and it would be necessary, if that stereotype were true, it actually would be necessary for that old religious form to be tossed out, for Jesus to replace that, if that's really accurate view of the Judaisms of the first century. But what we're going to find is, if history will help us, along with a better reading of the New Testament, there's simply no way to sustain that stereotypical perspective of the Judaisms of the first century as this stone-cold religion of works. It just doesn't pan out. Even, again, if you factor in the idea that many of the religious people of Yeshua's day were very, very faithful and loyal to God's words and Torah, we have to ask the question of motive. If Judaism has the proper motives, then we can rechange Judaism. Remember, and I'll say this, then I'll shut up and keep reading David Stern's commentary. Remember, originally when God gave the instructions to Moses to give to Israel, right? We're talking about the constitution of Israel as a people. The laws of Moses became their very constitution, just like we in the United States, the American people, we have this constitution, right? We have these laws that govern our very lifestyle and the fabric of our society. This was the way the Torah was interacted with and viewed in the life of ancient Israel, and even somewhat today, but we live in democracy rather than theocracy. But the point I'm trying to emphasize is that we should not be so easy to dismiss the Torah in Yeshua's day, because this would leave them vulnerable to what? The constitution of Rome around them? The Greek societies? Was Jesus saying, pitch the law of Moses and start living according to, you fill in the blank? There wasn't a New Testament body of writings that were collected together just yet, right? It's not like Yeshua was assuming that they would just simply live according to the laws of Rome around him, right?